Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. With your hosts, Drew and Daniela. Take our hands and let's walk this journey together.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Meaningful Hearts podcast. Today, we're back together again. I love it. How are you doing, babe?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, we've had split schedules, so sometimes that conflicts with our abilities to be on the same time frame. So we split it up a little bit. We have some side projects that we wanted to talk about, so we always have those ready and waiting just in case we can't record together. And then we have a program that when we do sit together and talk, we have some dialogue.
Yeah. And this episode in particular is actually about a disagreement that Drew and I had literally earlier today.
I disagree.
So I thought it would be a good idea to talk about, something that we went through. Because part of building a more meaningful life is being honest about the things that we experience and ultimately how we work through them. Because I think you and I work through it in a pretty healthy way. So thought it'd be a good idea.
I agree with that. I think we do. I know that I've learned in from the past that how you communicate and how you approach situations thoroughly matters. Being with Daniela especially has highlighted on the way that I do react and respond, which is better, made me better.
I love that. And same goes for me. So let's talk about the disagreement itself. Would you like to start, or should I start with my... No, you know what?
You start it. Yep.
I'm trying to think back on what exactly started. Oh, okay. So Drew and I were thinking about what to do for the day. We didn't necessarily have anything planned. And then I made the suggestion for us to go potentially see a movie after having brunch. We got a late start into the morning, which was fine. And then we had talked about maybe going to see a movie after we had brunch. And I forget exactly what happened. Maybe you can fill me in on this, babe, or fill everybody in on this. But
we're trying to figure out the movie we wanted to see wasn't playing in a theater locally. It wasn't as close by. And where it was playing was later on in the day.
Oh, right.
It was further east from where we were. Now, she lives in the opposite direction. I live eastbound past the movie theater. So usually we split it off where I'll leave at a certain point later in the day or evening to go back home, which is about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. So she suggested that maybe we'll go see the movie at that further theater and then come back to her house and then leave east again.
Yes, but I also said, so here's another aspect of it, is that sometimes I'll go out and stay at Andrew's apartment. Sometimes I'll stay home. And today was one of those days where I had mostly planned to stay home because I had some things that I had to do at home. But when he asked me if I was going to be coming out to the apartment in a different conversation, I had said I wasn't planning on it. But it's not necessarily a no, like things could change. So when we were talking about the movie, part of it was we could go to the one heading east, and we just have to unfortunately travel in 2 cars. And Andrew did not like this idea.
I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the idea, being that we would have to still come back, right? Wasn't the idea was to initially come back before we go further east again?
No, so it would, depending on which movie theater we would have gone to, we would have gone to the movie theater in one car and then back home to pick up my car because it was on the way
Yeah.
to you, or we both go get my stuff and then go to the movie theater, and then that was like out east, closer, heading that way, if that makes sense.
But at the same time, with the 2-car option, you also didn't want to head to Long Island too early either.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that I wasn't down with that option. It was just that,
Yeah.
but I still don't want to leave that early to Long Island. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. Because part of it was, I knew that if I went to stay out by you, I was going to leave my mom. And so I thought, I want to leave later so that my mom, we spend some company, like we give my mom some company, which is really funny because she didn't end up coming home till like much later anyway. But in any case, so this is kind of what it started. And then we started disagreeing, or I think it was ultimately your reaction to like the different options because of the way that your thought process goes. Like and this is exactly what we talked about, is that you operate on a higher level of urgency than I do. So for you, you're not just hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to add more to it. You're not just hearing, well, let's go to the movies and see where it goes. You are calculating, okay, we need to go to the movies. How much time is that going to take? Or how much time is it going to take for you to pack? We still have to get back to Long Island. We got to eat at some point. We have to record an episode. I have to prepare for the week. And then the week is sometimes tough. And all of this just kind of is not what I think about, right? I think that was what we were talking about. And he was getting upset. And for me, it was a bit of a buzzkill because I don't think all those steps ahead all the time. I do for some things, but not all the time, especially like on the weekend. I'm kind of just chilling. I'm like, yeah, if we get to this, we get to this. If not, then we'll figure it out. I know another thing that you also calculate, babe, is like parking and what that's going to look like. And is it going to be accessible? Am I going to have to like be annoyed at people driving like jerks and not parking properly? And I don't think about any of those things. And so I think that was like the base of our disagreement really is Drew operating on a higher level of urgency than me, and him being frustrated with the fact that I'm so chill all the time, or a good chunk of the time.
Parking properly, it's either they park in the spot or they don't.
No, you know how like in front of your apartment there's like designated parking areas, and people don't always park in like the space. They'll drive like over the line.
But I mean, see, give or take though, it's 1 car per spot. So even if they're half in the spot, it's taken.
That was only a part of it.
That's neither here nor there. It's just when we're carrying 8,000 things, and to double park over there is a pain in the ass because there's nowhere. You can't be a jerk and block the whole street. So it's just one way going and one way coming back. So it's just stupid stuff. It's just irritable. It's more or less because I operate on a high level of, I got to get shit done. I got a lot of things to do. I'm already in the next day. I'm figuring out what I'm going to do, how my week's going to start, waking up early. Yes, recording the podcast, getting something, eating, not going to bed at 12, not going to bed at midnight. There's a bunch of stuff. So for me to do those things, I know that we have to be from point A to point B. We have to be there at a certain time to do that. I'm not like, we'll go with the flow and maybe I'll do it at 11:30 at night, or maybe I'll do that. It's like, that doesn't work for me. I can just plan it out and just know, okay, I'm not going to do that thing because if I do that thing, it's going to offset everything else. She's a little more chill with that, which I love that about her. But at the same time, it's frustrating for me.
Yeah. And then I think as the disagreement went on, I think what ended up happening was you ended up getting pretty upset because it was a buzzkill for me. And then this is something I said to you while we were talking. I know that it compounds for you, and then you end up being pretty self-critical. Well, something else that happened I just remembered was when we were finishing with brunch, you like wanted to pay and get out, and we had like, I don't know if that's what's a squabble? What's the definition of a squabble?
Squabble.
Yeah, maybe I don't know that word.
A squabble. I don't know what squabble is.
Squabble. I guess what I'm
a quarrel?
What?
A quarrel? Isn't it like a fight? Quarrel. I've heard of lovers quarrel.
Quarrel.
But a squabble. I don't know what let me Google squabble right now. a noisy quarrel. That's what it says. Yeah, I guess it's an argument of some
A
sort.
squabble?
Like a quarrel. A noisy quarrel is a squabble.
Okay. Well,
It's
in
funny how
any
they're both
case,
related.
I don't think it was like noisy, but when we were in the restaurant, like you went to pay and you want to take it out because you understood that being a waiter, you want to have a fast like turnover rate for the tables. And I remember saying to you, but there's nobody here. And I think that also is part of what plays into it. Sometimes I'm a little bit too chill with time versus Drew. Again, you want to get things done. You're mindful of the waiter. And sometimes, and this is what we were talking about when we were disagreeing, is that it's frustrating. Sometimes it's a bit of a buzzkill, but then there are other times where it doesn't necessarily work out for me, that I am the way that I am. And that's kind of where we butt heads, because you got really upset. And I remember saying, even like I would understand if it was like packed in there, but we were pretty much the only ones at the tables. And so I remember saying to you, it's okay to take up space. And that was part of my reasoning and my explanation with the differences in how we operate. Because when you operate from a level of urgency and you stress and worry about things that are upcoming, it doesn't allow you to, I guess, feel like you can take up space in the moment.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the other kind of on the other spectrum. Sometimes I'm too much in the moment where I end up overwhelming myself later on when I realize I couldn't get certain things done or I have to leave it for another time.
Yeah, you like to squat in the moment. You're a moment squatter.
So that was kind of what happened. And I remember throughout our disagreement, I remember obviously feeling upset, and I think Drew was upset. And I think how we work through it, and you can add to this, is I think allowing ourselves those moments for just kind of being quiet when we were like sitting in the car talking. I could feel Drew shutting down a bit and like wanting to figure it out, and me saying like, let's just take a moment to, like finish this conversation and kind of talk to each other and give ourselves like the space, right? That's what happened.
Yes. It's
also, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that it's also a matter of, instead of shooting from the hip, if you're in a heightened level, right? You're in this heightened state of either anger or annoyance, you might just start firing away and bicker, or you might hurt somebody like in a way that, it's not intended, because remember, your emotions leave you. And then the collateral damage from that is what you deal with long term, right?
Yeah. I think that's something else that I literally just realized is we kept up the disagreement about the disagreement. It wasn't like other things came up. But I remember you mentioning that you feel like I always accommodate you. And I remember saying to you, I think that's part of the time. And sometimes it's frustrating, but that's okay that it's frustrating. Just like on the reverse end, I know that sometimes you feel like, oh man, she's a little bit like too chill, like this stresses me out. So I think it is about, I guess, allowing that kind of conversation or reassurance that this is about what's happening right now. It's happened in the past, but it's okay. I'm talking about like right now. I don't hold resentment. I'm just saying, there are some times where it's annoying, and this happens to be one of those times. So I think that was really helpful to just, I don't think I've ever in those moments felt like we were disagreeing about something else. It was actually about that one thing. And I think that's very helpful, because I know that there are couples when they disagree, it starts about the thing they start disagreeing about, and then all these other things come up for one or both of them.
They decide it's open forum to talk about all the problems they had that they didn't talk about.
Right.
Like, I was pissed at you yesterday. I was pissed at you on Wednesday. I was pissed at you on Friday. Let's not talk about 2 weeks ago. And it's like, remember when I shut down and it
Yeah.
wasn't about you, but it was really about you. And this is why it's like, wow, we're going to have this all out now because it's like time to fight. So let's fight about everything. Let's hit ourselves with low blows back and forth, and then we'll make up and get over it. And then that's not healthy either, because
Yeah.
you're not on a consistent basis communicating. I think that's the key. I think that we've exercised the ability to do so. Like we often speak about things that have bothered us or made us feel uncomfortable, or
Right.
we go through these things and they're not the greatest they're not the greatest, the most fun conversations to have, and they're scary and they're a little bit stressful. But I've seen that from doing the reps over time, it has created such harmonious relationship, and we're able to grow and trust each other and disclose things with each other and know that it's going to be a healthy conversation. This didn't happen overnight. This took a lot of time. This took a lot of being butthurt about things and shit.
Yeah.
I remember the first times we were having these conversations, they were really heavy and they lingered for a while. I was like, damn, I feel really sad. And I'm like, damn, this is not good. This is turmoil for the relationship. Oh my God, I hope it works out. This is early on. And as time goes on, it's like things that used to I guess take a while to process or process faster, understood, we could speak about them a lot quicker and move forward harmoniously and respect each other and look forward to having more conversations in the future, because we know that we have that space to do so without feeling like it's going to rock the boat and cause a stormy weather.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, I think that one of the things that really stuck out to me about our disagreement earlier and how we worked through it was when we were talking about like me coming out, and I shared with you that there was a part of me that, because of what had happened, it kind of did play into like my desire, or like I guess like the motivation or want to come out, because it was a bit of a buzzkill. And I remember the way that you responded to that was, it was upsetting to you, but it wasn't explosive or it wasn't defensive. And I know that must have been really hard for you to hear. And I think I said this to you when I said it, was like, in being able to share that with you and have you be receptive, it ends up being such a corrective experience for me, because I know that even if I do say something that upsets my partner, he's not going to react in a way where it's unhealthy. I've definitely been in relationships where I felt like I couldn't share, hey, I don't really want to hang out today, because my partner was going to hold that against me and say, oh, you prefer to hang out with other people, or what is it about me that you don't like being around? And that wasn't necessarily the case. And so to be able to be with somebody who can sit through hearing something so difficult, or whether it's very difficult or not that difficult to hear, it's still difficult. Nobody likes to hear like, hey, this is part of the reason why I don't want to do this, because of your reaction or because we're disagreeing right now. Nobody likes to hear that. And in being able to have that space and have you actually be open and not attack me, it actually kind of took that away. And it just brought the feeling back of wanting to go. And I think that that's very important, which is part of what I had written down about how to help or encourage others to work through their disagreements, is really giving each other the space, the time, the moment to process exactly what the other person is saying, and actually listening. Because there are moments where Drew and I are disagreeing about something, and one of us will say to the other, can I please finish? Because the other is already formulating a response. Babe, you've done this. I know I've done this, but we managed to say, let me just finish. And it's never a raised tone, or if one of us starts to get amped up, then the other one brings each other down, because we don't want to create or normalize a relationship where we're yelling at each other, or when we're not listening to each other, or when we make the argument about something that we've been harboring inside. So all in all, I think the disagreement was a really healthy disagreement. And even in the way that we speak, we call our disagreements disagreements. We don't call them arguments. We don't call them fights. And I think even the language that you use when you're describing, conflict with your partner is so important. And I don't think a lot of people do that, because people say, oh, we got into a fight. When somebody tells me that they got into a fight with their partner, what I'm thinking is yelling, cursing, disrespectfulness. And that's not necessarily always the case. I think that's just my assumption. But that's why I'm so careful with saying disagreement, because we have disagreements. We don't have fights. I don't even know if we have arguments, honestly.
I mean, we bicker about stuff. I mean, I'll be honest with you. You know this. I do raise my voice. I, like by default, I go
Yeah,
high.
he's more
Right.
likely to raise his tone than I am. But
Like,
that's, you know, it's an understanding. I know that you grew up in an environment where that's the only way that you feel heard. And it's not, I don't come at you and say, hey, like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you yelling at me? I say, hey, babe, you know, you're raising your tone. I hear you. You don't need to, you know, yell at me or like raise your tone to that extent. And I think
yeah,
that's helpful for you.
yeah. I try to, you know, I doesn't come from that. Obviously, I do have relationships in my life where you see in our conversation, heard our conversations, you know who you are. It gets out of control. It's like straight on shouting match. But in the end of the day, everything that comes out of love doesn't come out of I'm looking to defeat you and stab you where and like mortally wound you. It never comes to that. I do get excitable. I do get passionate. The type of work that I do also doesn't help. I work on deadlines and I work on the pot. You know, I have to go out there and I have to get it every day. And you got to stand firm. You got to be able to, you know, roll with the punches, and sometimes it crosses over into your life.
Yeah.
And,
I've made a lot of banging noises, so I apologize if that comes up.
Try to edit them out. If you don't hear them, then I did a good job.
Yeah. If you do, no, it's okay. You're a human being. But is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up our episode?
No, I think that's a good place to stop and reflect and think about your lives and think about the people in them and how you could better resolve disagreements.
Yeah. I hope that this was I guess like a helpful tool for how to work through disagreements in a healthy way, but also for, I guess, hearing that just because we talk about how healthy our relationship is and how awesome our relationship is, it doesn't mean that it's all happy, go rainbows and like, you know, pot of gold every single time we get into disagreements. It's just how we work through those disagreements. And again, I hope that you're able to take something away for yourself, for the relationships around you. And we look forward to helping or continuing to help you all build a more meaningful life.
Yes.
I have my thumbs up right now.
Thank you all for listening, and we will speak to you soon.